Welcome to Fly on the Wall podcast. I'm your host, Chris Sonksen, CEO and founder of Church Boom. Here you get to sit in on a live coaching session as I coach pastors through the ministry challenges we all face. If you find this podcast helpful, please make sure to like, subscribe, and share. Hey, welcome to today's podcast. We are talking with my buddy, Luke from West Virginia. He's a great pastor. He's got a great church. We're talking about sermon prep. Practical ideas for sermon prep. I think you're going to love the conversation. I want you to also go to churchboom.org when you get a chance and check out the Church Boom Network. This is an incredible tribe to belong to where you can get together if you want to monthly and talk to other pastors and grow and learn together. We get together in person, and it's just a tribe to run with and belong to. I think you'll love being a part of the Church Boom Network. Also, want to remind you to follow us on our social media, church.boom for Instagram, and Facebook is Church Boom. So make sure to follow us on social media. There's a lot of great content that comes out there as well. Let's jump into the conversation with Luke. I think you're going to enjoy this one. Good to see you, man. Let's jump into it. How can I serve you today?
Yeah, I want to ask a couple questions about sermons and sermon prep and those kinds of things. I've seen studies where, when they rate the most important thing to people when they're going to choose a church and kids' church and all those things, and typically it seems like the message is number one. I don't know if you would agree with that or not, but if that is true. And I know there's like systems and all those kinds of things, but if that's the main thing, how much should I lean in on that? What kind of attention? And then just a couple questions about like prep and calendar planning and those kinds of things.
Yeah. Well, my answer is I think that you should lean in on it. I think people come for the message. They stay for the relationship. So if they come for the message, I do think that they judge a large portion by it. Now, You can have a great message, and if they have a horrible experience, if their 8-year-old has a horrible experience, it doesn't matter how good your message was. Right. That definitely parallels with everything. But I do feel like that. As a matter of fact, I taught that, I think it was last week. I think it was for our network or something. I think it was for our Church Boom Network. But anyway, I was teaching last week about sermon calendaring. And a couple of the things that I talked about, and again, this may prompt some different questions or whatever, but one is I always tell people, hey, try to plan out a year in advance, not your message, but just plan out, hey, the general idea, like just generally what we're going to talk about in January. Here's genuinely what we're going to talk about in February, March, April, May, whatever. So when you do that in October and you can hand your team, worship team, creative team, or whatever, hey, here's where we're going for 2000, whatever the next coming year is, you're able to help them be creative and you know where you're going. So I think that's important. Secondly is I think it's important to recognize the seasons. Summertime, depending on what state you live in, a lot of people are gone, so it's not the high season of bringing friends. So maybe that's the time to go a little bit deeper than you normally would. Okay. Right. Maybe the spring and the fall, if that's your growth time, maybe that's the time to try to think a little bit more practical and a little bit more like, kind of general audience.
Yeah.
I also say that I think a pastor, personally, this is my personal conviction, I think a pastor has to learn how to teach, preach, speak, whatever, bilingual, not English and Spanish, but churched and unchurched.
Yeah.
The church person getting it and the unchurched person getting it. The other thing that I would say is I think titles really matter. I think they do, especially if you're going to put it on a card, have people kind of make a promo piece about it, tell your people to give it out, send it to a mass mailing list that you probably have. You probably have 3,000 on your mailing list or whatever, sending it out to them. I think titles matter.
Yeah.
And I can just tell you, I got an idea about, 15, 17 years ago from someone. I was talking to him and he was telling me, hey, he says, you know how many millions of dollars Cosmopolitan and Vogue and all that spend on the cover of their magazine for titles only? Because when you're standing in line at the grocery store and you look over and you see a magazine, there's about 4 or 5 seconds that a person is going to make a decision to buy that magazine, and it's usually going to be based on a title.
Yeah.
Think about it. You're standing in line. You're like, oh, that title grabbed your attention. You grab the magazine, you open it up, and maybe you buy it.
Right.
It's an impulse buy. It's an impulse buy based on titles. So they spend millions of dollars testing titles. So, excuse me. So they spend $1 million testing titles. So what we did about 17 years ago is when we were looking towards titles, and usually we prepare a year in advance, and then we prepare more granular level about 3 months in advance. Titles, concepts, biblical narrative, all that stuff is about 2 to 3 months in advance. But when we're creating titles, we're coming in with 5 or 6 magazines we bought at the store. You got to clean up those titles because they're usually way not clean, but you got to clean up the titles. But it's amazing the title ideas you get from magazines, the cover of the magazine.
Right.
You just take it and tweak it. And now all of a sudden, you've got this, hey, we're going to do a series on blank, whatever that is. And here's going to be, whatever, January 5th, January 12th, January 19th, and January 26th. Here's the titles. And you're like, and the titles are strong. Now that's a Facebook ad. That's an Instagram ad. That's being blasted out to the entire church. That goes on a promo piece. I think titles attract. If they didn't, they wouldn't spend millions of dollars on titles. And but titles matter.
Yeah.
And that's another kind of trick, if you will, to the trait is titles matter. Sermon prepping, I'll give you one more, is I don't know if you do this, but I don't know if I've shared with this to you before, but if you open up my phone right here, you can go to the notepad area, that little notepad area where you got all your notes. And there's one right here. It says great quotes. These are quotes I see in magazines. These are quotes that I see on Instagram, quotes that I see on Facebook. And I literally, I take them and every time I see a quote, every week I'm adding quotes, cool quotes. Like, whoa, that's a powerful quote, I'll just open it up here. My biggest fear isn't failure. It's being successful at something that doesn't matter. Yeah. That's like, whoa, that's a powerful quote that be used in a message or whatever, but I'll never remember it if I read it on Facebook and go, that's a great quote, and then just move on with my life. Right. I put it into a quote file. Not only do I do that, but I also have speaking stories, and I just constantly build stories. And I don't know if I told you that before, but for whoever's listening, if something funny happens at Walmart, I put a little 2-sentence into my memo pad. I probably got 200 stories in there. Yeah. That way you can always go back and go, oh my gosh, yes, when me and whoever was driving down the street and whatever this happened, or I was sitting at a stoplight, or I was at Target, or I was at the restaurant. You can remember you can't remember the funny thing that happened 2 years ago, but if you put it in your notepad, you can remember. That's another way to keep your stories fresh and your quotes fresh as well. Yeah.
When you're planning out a year in advance and you've got like the big concept ideas, do you go back to the drawing board each year, or does it stay static? Like, hey, we always do relationship series in February. We do evangelism in May.
Yeah. Well, to a degree, there might be. I can tell you what static is. Christmas is obviously Christmas. Right. Mother's Day, Father's Day, Easter. By the way, always start a series on Easter, not the week after. Always start it on Easter. Yes, absolutely.
We've gone back and forth on that. Do you mind elaborating on why?
Oh, by far, because and by the way, one more static thing always is Family Month for us. It might be different for you, but Family Month is a static. We're going to do Family Month every year. We're going to do all, Family Month. We're going to always do that every year. We're going to do some sort of giving series every year. So there's probably a good 5 or 6 that are pretty static.
Do those static ones have a certain spot on the calendar where they stay?
Within reason. Like Family Month is always September or October, depending on how the weekends fall. The giving one will be twice throughout the year. The 90-day challenge will be at the beginning of the year, January or February. So it kind of fluctuates just a little bit, but kind of stays in the same spring, winter, fall, summer, whatever. But you asked me a question about, starting at Easter, a series on Easter. I love it because it's the same as Family Month in the sense of You're starting a series that you're asking people to join you. You're not asking them to join the church.
Yeah.
You're asking them to join you for the series. So, and you want to relate it to Easter. So let's say you do a series starting on Easter, and it has to do with, scars. Like we did a series years ago called Scars. And so here was the whole idea on Easter. Jesus, the scars of Jesus were meant to also help us with our scars. And so, you kind of do that. Or the same power the same power that opened the door on Resurrection Sunday can also open the door in your life for your healing or for your hurt or your habit or your hang up or whatever. You somehow, you somehow relate Easter to that series. But here's the thing. You want to make it on Easter, like you want it to feel urgent. So I'll just kind of role play for you a little bit here. Like, hey man, today we're talking about scars. Jesus has scars, the same scars that he has. The reason he has those scars is to help us with our scars. And then, man, everybody in here has something they need to get over. A pain, a hurt, a rejection, a whatever. We've all got stuff, or maybe you call it a hurts and habits. We all got, maybe yours is a hurt, maybe yours is a habit. It's like, man, I'm still addicted to that thing or whatever. We all have that stuff. And aren't you thinking like I'm thinking, like, when are we ever going to finally deal with this? Are we just going to keep carrying it for the next 20 years? When do we deal with it once and for all? And man, this series that we're starting today, okay, I just ministered to you for 30 minutes and I told you about this, that, and the other thing, and hopefully your heart's been moved. But I'm going to ask you to join us, not the church, but I'm asking you to join us for this series. Okay, we have 3 more parts to this series. Today was part 1. And I think that your life, your hurt, your habit, the thing that you say, man, I got to deal with this thing once and for all, I think it's worth 3 more hours or, 4 more hours, 5, whatever. Like, just join us for the next 3 Sundays. And don't join, I'm not asking you to join our church. I'm just saying join us for the next 3 Sundays. And dude, I'm telling you, it works.
Yeah.
You got to do your resurrection message, but just make it part of the series. Today we're launching a new series. And again, I'm not saying you're going to join our church, but I think that it's worth it for you to be here. It's a 4-part series. You already got one of them down.
Right.
Just come for 3 more times. And then if you don't want to come to church anymore, don't come. But we say that because it removes all the bait and switch stuff. It's just like, just come because your habit is worth it. Don't miss. And it's always a great Sunday, kind of like this wristband I'm wearing says, I came to the rescue. You've seen those. That's about our rescue initiative. We rescue churches. We do that with Family Month. Family Month, like for your church, Family Month at Center Branch, 2025, whatever. You could also do something like we did. We did a series called Doors that started on Easter, and we gave everybody a castle-looking key. And we put a little string on it and said, man, put it in your car, put it on your little blinker switch, put it on your keychain if you have one of those. Just remind yourself for the next 4 weeks that the same key that caused Jesus to resurrect from the dead, that power is available to you to unlock that pain and that hurt in your life or whatever it is. You give them something that just says, let this little key be a reminder that you're going to be here for the next few weeks.
Yeah.
That's why you do it on there. And you rip it on Easter, man. People are like, dang, that was just hit home. And then you're just like, just join us for the next few weeks.
Yeah. When you're planning out the series, what does that look like? You've got a team. You meet like quarterly to plan out the next quarter's worth. And can you walk me through what that looks like?
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody's different. I like anywhere from 4 to 6 people, and they can be the same or different. What I mean by that is, in October, whenever you want to do it, bring 4 to 6 people into a room, probably stay the night somewhere, and have a little fun with them and hang out. But you're going to put big old white Post-its around the room. One says January, one says February, March, April, and so on. Everybody's going to come with ideas. You're going to put the static ones up there. All right, we already know, okay, let's go over to June. We know Father's Day is on that day. May, we know Mother's Day's here. Easter here. Christmas here. Okay, Family Month, we're going to want to do it in this month. We're going to do the whole giving stewardship thing and talk about 90-day challenge and tithing and all that on this month. So, but they're still going to need to get creative with it. So everybody comes to that October meeting and they're getting really creative. Like, man, come with your best ideas, your best thoughts, because what you want to walk away with is you want to brainstorm, scratch ideas. Oh, that didn't work. Get rid of that big old Post-it and put a new one on there. And it's kind of a mess. There's stuff everywhere because you're just going like this, and what you're doing is you're just coming up with the best ideas possible. Like, what do we want to talk about in Family Month? And what subjects could we talk about? Sometimes titles will come out of there. Sometimes they won't. But, okay, it's Family Month. Okay, great. What are we going to talk about? Communication one week or no? Anger one week or no? We can talk about sex in church and talk about that in marriage or no? Are we going to talk about intimacy? Are we going to talk about forgiveness? What are we going to talk about? Okay, now let's go over to the tithing challenge. When could we do that there? What subjects would we want to hit? Well, what if we did something on just, getting your money in order and then talk about stewardship, materialism, tithing? Or, no, let's not do that. Let's talk about money management. Okay, no, let's talk about getting your life in order and talk about the 4 major things that need to be in order. Our relationships, this, whatever, money. Like, you're going to figure out how to get the tithing talk inside of your series. And you guys are spending, a full day doing that. So maybe an evening and then the next day or something. And you're doing that. Then you're going to get, what you want to walk away with is, here's the main idea. Like, Family Month is a main idea, or whatever is going to be in March or April. Here's kind of the subjects. They're not flushed out yet. They're not fully titled, but kind of like, here's the general month, and this is kind of what we're going to talk about each week. Someone's going to put that into a laptop, and you're going to have the title, not specifically the title, but the general idea, like October, Family Month. Focus on the family and la, 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 la. Maybe even a couple ideas that came out of it because people start going off with different ideas. Week 1, we're going to talk about anger and how to learn to get over it. Week 2, we're going to talk about forgiveness and how quick we need to forgive in our family. Like, you're just going to get the general synopsis of every month. Okay, now you're done for the year. Now, okay, for instance, if it's March, you're probably working on May with those same 4 to 6 people or a version of those 4 to 6 people. So now you're working on May going, okay, man, it's March, teaching team. Let's try to knock out 2 months in one meeting. So, all right, guys, we know where we're generally going. Now they're going to come with more ideas, biblical narrative, some sermon illustration ideas, maybe some, okay, it's Family Month. Let's just stick with that one. They're going to come. Everybody already knows. Okay. So let's say you did it in October. You're going to meet in August about it. They already know what the general synopsis. They already know what each week's going to look like generally. Now they're going to come in with some great titles. They're going to come in, hey, here's some title ideas. We'll throw them up there. They're going to come in with some biblical narrative ideas. They're going to come in with sermon illustrations. Maybe they're going to come in with some statistics. 1 out of every 4 marriages struggle with whatever. People are going to come with stuff.
Yeah.
And you're going to write out general, like, okay, man, good. That's our title. Here's our biblical narrative. And what you want to walk away with is title, biblical narrative, and at least 3 or 4 points. You may not use all 3 or 4 points, but the general idea, like you're getting. Now it went from just, we're going to talk about forgiveness to, now we've got the title, now we got the biblical narrative, and we've got 3 or 4 major points. We've got 4 or 5 good stats with it and a really cool sermon illustration about, I don't know, tigers and how they, whatever, in the jungle, whatever. Some sermon illustration like, that's so cool. You're going to walk away with something pretty solid. So you as a speaker, when it rolls around to October for Family Month or whatever, you get to sit down and go, I got a title. I got biblical narrative. I got 4 or 5 really cool points. I don't know which ones I'm going to use. I've got some really cool stats. I got a sermon illustration. Like, you're already rounding second when you go down to start preparing, which makes your life a whole lot easier.
Yeah. No, the 2 month, like, you're planning for May and March. Is that meeting? That's just like an afternoon. How long? That's not a go. Okay.
Yeah, that's not a go away thing. No.
Okay.
That's just a couple hours, 2 hours or so. If you got some people that are helping you that are not, can't be off in the day, you might have to do it in the evening or whatever. But yeah, it's a couple hours. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, that's awesome.
Hey, man, we are out of time. I got to jump on another one, but dude, thanks for jumping on, man. I really do appreciate it. And man, it's an honor to coach you guys, man. I love the church.
Yeah. No,
But
thank
thanks
you,
for
Pat.
jumping on.
Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll talk soon, buddy. Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Hey, thanks for checking out today's podcast. Hope you got some practical ideas on sermon prep. Want to remind you also to check out churchboom.org and our Church Boom Network. Such an incredible tribe to belong to. I really want to encourage you to do that. Also, don't forget to follow us on social media. Instagram is church.boom and Facebook is churchboom. Make sure you check that out. A lot of great content that you can get right there on social media. So make sure to check that out. And we will see you next time on the Fly on the Wall podcast.